Yep.
Saw past the sands of time, washed up on the beach. In the summer of my life, you were a flower blooming in the sea. Jumped off the stage, pushed right through the crowd, all to know your name and pull back the shroud. And oh, the rhythm of the sounds inside of me, and I can feel the beat. When our eyes connect, it's paradise sweet, and I can feel the beat. When I hold you close, we are so light and free, and I can feel the beat. Moving together to the music's melody, and I can feel the beat. Your voice is a song, your face in my dreams, paradise in your arms, and salt inside your scream. You are a star falling on the beach, under the passing of time, an hourglass within my reach. And oh, the rhythm of the sounds inside of me, and I can feel the beat. When our eyes connect, it's paradise sweet, and I can feel the beat. When I hold you close, we are so light and free, and I can feel the beat. Moving together to the music's melody, and I can feel the beat. I can see dark clouds on the horizon over. After a day out, I lost my four-leaf clover. I see a dark shape roving in the water. The tides have broken, and it just keeps getting harder. But oh, the rhythm of the sounds inside of me, and I can feel the beat. When our eyes connect, it's paradise sweet, and I can feel the beat. When I hold you close, we are so light and free, and I can feel the beat. Moving together to the music's melody, and I can feel the beat. Oh, I can feel the bleed. You make me feel complete. Swept me off my feet. Oh, I can feel the beat.
All right, that's it. One more. All right.
We used to worship at the altar of the unseen, but we found a new opiate, separate us by a screen. in my space when the matrix was a dream. I'll read in the book of face, falling deeper into the scheme supposed to bring us together, but we pay a different price. Could be in a crowded room, but we're still glued to our device, watching all the needles enter through the eyes. Everyone's a kind of junkie, some are just better at disguise. I can't hear above the shouting, so many blank eyes staring. You gaze into the abyss. Does it stare back or does it hiss? What do you hear? Utopian dystopia, my life's encyclopedia. It's all in my pocket, deep inside my eye sockets. Utopian dystopia, the world's my urban phobia. It's much safer in my bed. Sometimes I wish that I was dead in this utopian dystopia. We thought it was a tool, but it was closer to a drug, keeping mind and bodies hooked. No way now to unplug. Your whole life in a box, more real than your skin. Have you won the popularity contest? Do you recognize your cyber twin? We moved too fast and broke too many things. We lost the connection. There's no more faces in my dreams. Big brother may have died, but we replaced him with machines. He was useful as our slave, but he'll make a terrifying king. I can hear through all the shouting of so many black eyes staring. If you gaze into the abyss, does it stare back or does it hiss? What do you hear? Utopian dystopia, my life's encyclopedia. It's all in my pocket, deep inside my eye sockets. Utopian dystopia, the world's my urban phobia. It's much safer in my bed. Sometimes I wish that I was dead in this utopian dystopia. Always trying to be a god, human creation, human flaws. There's hubris in the mold, where greed makes all the laws. Utopian dystopia, my life's encyclopedia. It's all in my pocket, deep inside my eye sockets. Utopian dystopia, the world's my urban phobia. It's much safer in my bed. Sometimes I wish that I was dead. Utopian dystopia, my life's ruled by the media. We're living and we're dying, yeah, we're addicted and we're crying. Utopian dystopia, feels like schizophrenia, yeah, it's all in my head, and it fills me with dread, existential dread, in this utopian dystopia. In the word today, weaponized desire, monetized attention, consuming the news from the newest invention. Algorithms bend our minds to some will, no one knows why, but it drives some people to kill anyone with money. nation. It's postmodern wasteland. Lost souls on a broken throne, looking for answers in a telephone. Disinformation nation, divided states of mind. Postmodern damnation, trudging at the edge of time. Distractedly watching as Facebook fires burn. Is it human nature to evolve, but simply not to learn? Anyone with money can influence the votes, polarizing people, building conspiracy modes. Question everything, but don't trust the answers you get from snake oil salesmen and online necromancers. Demonizing sides, falling prey to hypocrisy, while radicals on the rise lead the fall of democracy. It's disinformation nation, a postmodern wasteland. Lost souls on a broken throne, looking for answers in a telephone. Disinformation nation, divided states of mind. Postmodern damnation, trudging at the edge of time. I guess there's no capital T in truth. History's always just been a tale we tell our youth. In this modern age, information stage, the truth is transitory, but we all have to agree on some kind of story, or we're lost. Disinformation nation, it's a postmodern wasteland. Lost souls on a broken throne, looking for answers in a telephone. Disinformation nation, divided states of mind. Postmodern damnation, trudging at the edge of time. Disinformation nation, unreliable narration. Are we doomed? We don't know the truth. Are we doomed? We don't know the truth. Is that better? You liked that better?
All right.
Good evening, Kat, Alyssa, Katalysst. Good evening.
Great
Welcome.
evening.
Hello.
Good to see you back down here again. Anneshirley.
Hi.
evening.
Good evening. How's it going?
Fantastic. How are you?
I'm doing great. It's really warm and intimate, and I like it.
I know, right? The candle, it's a nice
The
touch.
candle is warming us
Candle.
up.
The lone candle.
The light that guides us all. It's very metaphorical.
Chris, sir, how are you?
Howdy. Doing good.
Fantastic. We've had a lot of fun recently with the painting, which we don't talk much about on the show, actually. But yesterday, Chris had a good idea to take wooden picks, and we've been doing the acrylic style painting, and dip the wooden picks down into that and into dry, and it's really cool because excited to see what kind of comes of
You
that.
get some cool like psychedelic
yeah.
colors. Yeah, you can make necklaces out of them. I think I'll hang some up.
The wood
Yeah.
bead idea is a really good idea.
Make like bracelets. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
Nice. We'll
this.
open you an
So
Etsy.
psychedelic.
I know.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, actually, good segue. This artist right here, who we've been featuring, Christina Freeman, my wife. She just opened up an Etsy store, and people are already jumping in on what she's got going on.
Nice.
She's building a website right now, and a lot of this thing she's working on right now. It's good. It's really good. I'm impressed. Very impressed. She's
Some
been doing a
Bob
lot of cool
Ross stuff going on there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some happy trees.
That is from a picture that I took on a camping trip to the Eastern Sierras, and that's actually like the Nevada state line that you'd be looking at right there. And we were
Nice.
camping, and right by that tree in the picture is my motorcycle, you know. And but yeah, it was like that's my happy place right there, Eastern Sierras. Getting out there and getting away. That's my place right there.
When he said like the motorcycle, I was thinking Twin Peaks.
Oh yeah, right,
yeah,
for sure. Yeah. You've been enjoying that.
Very much so. David Lynch, shout out. We have him on the podcast, please.
Right, yeah.
It's for season 2.
See how we can look that up.
Mm-hmm.
So, ladies, we will have just gone through the 3 songs that you brought us this evening. We had heard, Chris and I had heard a couple of those before. One of those you brought on, we had not heard at all. All good stuff. Of course, you played one of the shows back in the fall, and we really enjoyed jamming with you guys.
That was so fun. It was
Just really elevated the music from here, like here. It was really great.
I know, we need more layers in our songs, because, like, I mean, we can do a good amount as a duo, but it does help to have a full band. It helps a lot.
Yeah, it was a joy to jam on that, and then you guys joining, or Kat, you joined us, and we went through some tunes as well, and improv the whole thing. I mean, we never rehearsed anything, not gone over any of and it's interesting how if you really listen to it, I can hear you come in just behind the beat, and because you're not worried about the consonant of the word, you're only worried about the sound of the vowel that's being made, right? And so once you hear that ooh or that ah or whatever it is that's coming out, then I guess you can attach to that.
Yeah, I was also, I don't know if you noticed, looking at you very carefully, and every time your mouth moved, I copied yours, and there's a strange phenomenon where when you move your mouth and based on what you've already heard happen in the song, you can kind of guess what that word is going to be based on the sounds. So whether it rhymes or
and the rhyme
like
scheme
that.
too. Yeah.
So I was just looking at you and moving my mouth and making some sounds, and I think it turned out pretty okay.
It was great. It was one of my favorite nights performing music, period.
I think that was one of the most unique nights we did this summer too, because I kind of took everybody out of their comfort zone a little bit. We were all like, performing on your guys' songs for the first time, spent some time rehearsing that week, but then, Austin, you were on percussion.
Oh yeah,
that was entirely. I remember coming home one night that week, and I just heard you like rocking out on the djembe. I was like, "What is this guy up to?" He's like, "Katalysst is playing this weekend. We're gonna,
it's gonna be a thing, man."
Yeah, and then having Brett on his really nice old parlor guitar, also.
Yeah.
And that situation, and then I got to play the nylon string. It was a whole cool combination of stuff. So,
That was great.
Yeah, that was awesome.
So, one of the things that we really push is original music, right? And so you guys, of course, wrote the songs that you brought, the songs that you performed on the stage. So now we've heard 6 Katalysst songs in the on the Primavera channel. We'll now be able to preview 6 of your songs.
Yeah.
I certainly have thoughts in terms of how you structure songs, but talk to me. What's writing like? Like, how do you guys work this out?
Well, usually, we kind of had a theme going after 1776, and that one we just wrote after a fight with my parents.
About BLM specifically.
Yeah, they just didn't get it at all, so we kind of brought them a lot of points, and I mean, it was a long discussion. It's like kind of one of those things that you have to like really work hard with the people that don't understand your side of things, and I mean, that's what we did. It was hours, and I mean, they live in Georgia, so they're very conservative. I mean, my dad is at least still logical, but they're very, they've just been inundated with propaganda. I mean, they've been watching Fox News forever. I mean, when I was a kid, Fox News was always on. And I mean, I grew up essentially Republican, but I went to college and kind of changed my views. I took a philosophy class, really. That changed my world, my whole view on like the way prisons worked and how the industrial complex of it all, and how, I mean, essentially, black people have been disenfranchised forever in this country. So, like, we are huge supporters of BLM, and my dad is not. So, after a long fight with them, we wrote 1776 pretty much in one night.
We, like, locked ourselves in the room. We were so angry, and we just went, and we just wrote out all of this music.
Yeah, and then since then, that kind of like had us on a roll. I mean, we just kept writing because that was the first song we ever wrote together. And then I would just usually come up with some kind of lyrics. We kind of wanted to make a whole EP. At first it was an EP, and then we decided to make it an album, but kind of like a political one, a sort of protesty themed,
kind of social commentary, taking things in America specifically, because a lot of people
hear what we do. Maybe not a lot of people, but certain people hear it and then they say, oh, you just don't like America. And that's not true.
Right.
No, we love America.
We love America. We're just
That's the
looking at
point.
the things that you can improve.
Right,
So we're
exactly.
kind of, with this album, we were trying to take different aspects of America that we felt could be improved and weren't as good as they could be, especially as evolved of a nation as we are.
And
so that's
some
kind
of
the
it,
theme.
it applies to all of human nature too. I mean, some of it, it's just problems everywhere. Problems with the West, And we just kept going off that idea with different things. I mean, you guys heard the one, you talked about it earlier, the social media one.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
we watched The Social Dilemma, and, that was kind of inspiring for a lot of things. The disinformation one is the kind of other side of social media and how, like, so many people, it's like a disinformation campaign. I mean, so many people believe things that are, just factually incorrect. But for them, it's their truth. And, that kind of song is like, if we can't all agree on something, what kind of future do we have?
Yeah, especially because there's this culture that kind of exists for certain people these days that is basically, if I don't like that fact, it's not real. I don't believe that. And we got a lot of that when we were traveling around Georgia, just talking about
Tell
stuff.
them what my dad said.
Yes, let's hear it. Tell the story.
We were asking, correct me if I say this wrong, but we were asking him kind of like, where are you getting your facts from? Where are you, like, we need some sources. And he was like, I'm getting my facts from
SteveSandersHistory.com. And I was like, what? He openly admitted that his facts don't come from anywhere factual. They
he's
come
like,
from his feelings.
It's like, they come from my heart. And we're like, but that's not
where you get
can't.
facts from. But there is a whole, and media knows this, that if they can elicit a really strong emotion within you, then they'll get you to pay attention. But emotions are not facts. Emotions are not where we get a more a bigger truth or a better truth, a more objective truth of the world.
Yeah, so
They cloud you,
Yeah, and it was kind of strange for me because, Alyssa's from Georgia and that was just, that was her family. And for me, I've spent most of my life in California, in the Bay Area, and I've been kind of in an echo chamber where most people that I speak with have the same viewpoints that I do, more or less. And I've never met anyone who was openly, someone who was supporting these, these things, or like a Trump supporter or something like that. I'm sure I know them and they've kind of come out over my social media, but it's been very few and far between. So it was very educational and interesting for me to be having these conversations and talking to these people who are very intelligent, people who, mean well and are very kind and yet have these beliefs that I find very odd. So, especially the whole thing with information being like, I just don't believe that fact.
Yeah, so if I don't like it, I don't believe it.
Yeah.
And, my dad does that a lot. And then my mom is, even worse than my dad. Hopefully they don't listen to this.
I was trying to say, hey guys,
No, I'm not even going to tell them
you
about
produce
this.
wonderful children.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, my mom is, totally against vaccines now. This is kind of random. Well, within the last year with the pandemic, she is against vaccines. She thinks climate change isn't real. Facts don't matter to her. She was literally trying to show me a book about some quack wrote who's not a real climate scientist, but was talking about how he didn't believe climate change was real. So, it's a confirmation bias. Once you believe something, you look for things that confirm what you already believe. And everyone is, everyone can be affected by that. I'm sure I have done that to myself as well. But you have to know that exists, and that's a psychological trend for humans.
Yeah.
I have an interesting person who I'm close with. I see him often, but we have very different views on the world. I'll call him Tom. Okay.
Okay.
So Tom he and your father would get along very well.
Oh, yeah.
Burgers and beer, they'd be all right. It'd be no problem. And Tom and I have a lot of similarities. There are things that we have same interest in, and we're both good at it, right? So one day he was going along the same path that you are talking. I know what I know because I feel it, right? I know what I feel, And it was something to do with the vaccine. And I said, so you don't believe science. You don't trust science. And he said, no. And I said, did you drive your truck to work today? And he said, yeah. I said, did you drive that projectile at about 70 miles an hour or more? He said, yes. I said, around other people doing the same thing? He said, yes. I said, you don't trust that science? You didn't trust that to get you from point A to point B safely in the manner that you expect it to do? That's not science. You know, it's crazy, the disconnect. It's really crazy. But let's step back a little bit. Like, I think I came out pulling both triggers here. All right. So Alyssa, you're from Georgia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which I'll probably want to talk more about. Kindred spirit, Southerner.
For sure.
Kat, California, for the most part, you said.
For the most part, yeah.
All right. So what's the genesis? How did Katalysst become Katalysst?
Well, so I was playing at a music festival in Davis where she was living. It was the Whole Earth Festival, and I was playing with my last band, Blooming Fire, who was a great band, great psychedelic band. I just saw her in the crowd post the show, and I was like, oh, hey, wow, you have really long hair. Can I touch it? I was already touching it.
She does. Like your hair is down to like mid-thigh or so?
Yeah, about mid-thigh.
Yeah, so probably 4 feet of hair.
At least. I know I measured it in middle school, and it was 4 feet long, so it's got to be longer than that by now.
Your hair brought us together.
I owe my hair so much.
All right, so you touched the hair.
So I touched the hair, and then we started chatting. And of course, I was like, hey, I'm a bass player. Did I mention I was a bass player and I was playing that show earlier? And she was like, oh gosh, which show?
No, that's not true. You're not giving yourself enough credit. I was there with a friend of mine, and I love the Whole Earth Festival. I tried to go every single year, but usually my work schedule would conflict. And this was the one magical year that I was not working at a time that I could go to the festival. And so a friend of mine came with me, and we were listening to the bands, and it was really fun. I was really enjoying it. But we had been so far out of the scene, both her and I, because we had, graduated a number of years before that. And so usually after the Whole Earth Festival, there is some kind of party or gathering of, artsy folk or, and we didn't know where that was happening anymore because we didn't know any people. They'd all kind of gone off. So when I met her, and she said to me, hey, are you guys going to be, going to a party after this? And my friend and I was like, we would like to. Do you know about any parties? Maybe people in the band might have a no.
I was like, no, but give me your number. And
Smooth. Well played.
Yeah, she was like, okay, well, if you give me your number, then if I find a party, I'll let you know. And if you find a party, you can let me know. And I was like, okay, that sounds good. And I ended up finding a really awesome reggae band playing downtown at a Thai restaurant/bar. Mm-hmm. And so I texted
all the
her.
Bars are Thai restaurants in Davis for some reason.
Not all the bars. There's a lot of Thai restaurants.
All the clubs.
It's obscene. There's one club.
Okay. And it's also a Thai restaurant.
So I was like, hey, you have to come check out this really cool band. And so she showed up, and we were hanging out, and kind of history from there.
We were hanging out. I'll get to the juicy part.
Yeah.
We were hanging out, and I don't know what moment you probably realized I was flirting with you, but I was like, hey, do you want to buy want me to get you a drink? And, anyway, I walked her to her car. Her friend was walking with us, and then at some point her friend is like, okay, I'm going to leave you guys alone now, and just rides away on his bike. And she's kind of standing close to me, and her face is right facing me, so I kind of felt like she was giving me an opening. And then I just kissed her.
And then the rest is history.
And then you wrote a song.
What, am I not allowed to say that? Oh my gosh.
Someone's embarrassed.
She was like, oh my gosh, okay, I have to go. And so
Oh, you're so cute.
Hey, it's the Genesis, man.
she just drove off, and then she texted me a few minutes later. I was like, I wanted to come back so badly. And I was like, come to my hotel then. And she was like, no, it's okay. You can come over to my house. Then it's history.
And then you wrote a song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the song really came. We didn't write a song for like months and months after that. But then she took a while, but she moved over down to LA, and then we were living in an artist commune for a while, which was pretty fun.
Awesome.
Yeah, you guys would definitely dig that place. It was called Upstart.
Nice.
Yeah, I was living
Check
like
that out.
30 people in one house, but we all lived in pods. So it was like those Asian style pods. Yeah.
Oh,
It was
wow.
very
Revolutionary.
minimal. It was really
Wow.
cool.
Musicians, artists, what'd you guys
Artists
have?
of all
Yeah.
kinds. You had to be an artist to apply,
All right.
and they would look at your Instagram or whatever YouTube videos and deem whether you were actually an artist or not, and then they would accept you. And it was a month by month lease, so it worked really well for artists coming in and out of LA. And
Yeah.
they gave you a little pod, and you didn't really need that much stuff. You just had a little bed, a couple of shelves, a little closet at the back, and
Wow.
there was like 6 people per room, and it was really kind of nice, especially for LA. For LA pricing, it was cheap. For
Right.
anywhere else, it was probably really expensive.
So it's effectively like an artist support commune kind of thing where you're not.
sure.
It's not like necessarily a creative space, but they're providing a place to live and stay.
They had
that's
a
discounted.
music studio too, so
I
like they had a
see.
bit of the creative stuff going on.
Yeah.
And they had a cool movie theater, and they had a bunch of
They had, like, a
events.
Movie
film
theater.
room or something
Damn.
like that.
Yeah, they planned
cool.
a bunch of cool events for us and like made it really easy to connect with each other about art. I mean, one guy became our videographer for my last band. I was in my last band while I was like doing this, and then, it was cool. It was great.
Yeah, it was neat.
Did a lot of
How
like
did-
cool shows there.
Oh, sorry to interrupt you.
Oh,
I'm
no,
sorry.
you're not. Please,
I'm just so curious about this experience. Like, how did it bring you guys closer together as like you're like artists working together, being in this environment? Was it encouraging? Like, how did you evolve ultimately being there?
Good question.
Yeah, it was nice because a lot of the people there are artists trying to make a career as artists. So, when you're around, I was always one of those people in college or something like that where I did my best work when I was around, in the library or something like that, around other people doing the same thing as me.
Like
Very
minded
inspiring.
souls. Yeah.
So being in a place so full of creativity with people constantly trying to, make it and do these kind of things was a real motivational tool. And, people would ask you, oh, what's your art? When you met them, which I just find such a great thing. And I want to put it in all forms of life. You meet someone, you go, what's your art?
Yeah, it was cool that was the first thing everyone always said, to you, instead of like, where are you from or what do you do? Just like, what's your art?
Oh, that is very
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah, like everyone could probably have that question because I think like everyone is an artist at heart. I mean, there's a craft for everyone.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah.
There's like this thing these days where people talk about like creatives, right?
Yeah.
And like I think that's cool and everything to have like a spot for that or a term for it, but I also think it can be limiting to like, oh, you're a creative, right? Because everybody has like this creative spirit that you're talking about, right? And I think that putting a term to it almost like limits like, oh, I'm either a creative or I'm not, right? But it's like more of a spectrum. Yeah, that was an aside, but
No, but
Been
for
thinking
sure,
about that.
I think everyone
Yeah.
like when fostered right can be creative. It's like an act, more of like less so an identity.
yeah. And you kind of want to hopefully foster as much of that as you can in people, right? Like I think that the more creative endeavors we get on to, just the more that life tends to flourish a little bit, right?
For sure.
Yeah.
And with Upstart too, it was a good stepping stone for us, like to not move right straight in with each other, like be those stereotypical lesbians, I guess.
Is that stereotypical lesbian?
Please explain to us what a stereotypical lesbian is, please.
Okay, like the whole stereotype is that they meet and then immediately move in together.
Gas
That's the
pedal.
thing. Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't break that stereotype. I mean,
We didn't move in together. We moved into the same area. We were roommates
yeah.
in a very breakable lease.
She was my pod mate. She slept below me, but really she slept in the pod with me. So luckily all of our roommates were very cool with that. Like didn't mind. But technically we weren't supposed to share a pod. Like
The rules were kind of strict.
Solo
about- It was
podcast.
really good for a single life. If you were a single person, it was totally great. For couples, not quite so much. The other thing with being in LA and being an artist is, a lot of these people are searching for somebody, or they're sad that they don't have somebody. And so we had a couple of people that were very
They didn't appreciate our PDA.
no, not that it was really over the top, but it's like we would just be laying on the couch watching a movie and people would be like, ugh, you know.
Yeah.
But we're also not allowed to share a pod. So where are we supposed to be hanging out in our home if we can't hang out in the common room and we can't hang out in our bedroom? So
Our manager was super chill with us, though. Apparently, like, for show, she had to, like, talk to us, have a conversation, but she was like, you know what? I'm just going to tell anyone else that comes to me that they need to go to you and talk to you, because you guys are so great, and I just love you, and where else are you going to hug each other? Like,
it's true.
That's cool. So when COVID came into our world, you guys were actually in Europe, right?
Yeah.
So tell us, what was the deal? What were you doing over there? What was the thing?
that was the next step after pod life. We were going to go travel the world together.
Well, I've always wanted to travel, and for various circumstances, I've never really been able to. So it was really neat that Alyssa is really into traveling also. And so at the time, I'd kind of been more free than I have been in a while. I said, let's just go traveling and bring our instruments and see what we find. You know, it's always been kind of a dream of mine to get a one-way ticket and then just go until I was done and then come back. So that's what we did. We got a one-way ticket and went to England first and stayed with some family of mine that are there. And went to Ireland for a while, went to Germany, went to Scotland, went to Amsterdam, went to Greece. Is that it?
I think that's pretty much it. It was supposed to be a lot longer, but then COVID hit, obviously. I mean, we were supposed to be going to Italy right after Greece and had a big trip planned in Italy, which we still have to go do once all this is over and done with. But of course, like at the time, we didn't know how bad COVID was, but her family was like saying, you can't go to Italy, you can't go to Italy. This was right before we went to Greece, and we're like, well, we'll see, you know. But of course, to each other, we're like, we're gonna go to Italy.
It was at the time people were saying, "Oh, it's just like the flu," you know,
Right,
and that.
right.
And so we were like, we'll wash our hands. We won't, you know. I know how to not get sick during flu season. Like it'll be fine. But we were actually in a tiny town on Crete when the travel ban hit, and at the time, I don't know about you, but I felt like there was a possibility we wouldn't be let back into the country past
It seemed like
a certain
that.
point.
Trump was
So-
saying that, I think. He like misspoke apparently, but he did say that originally, that they were gonna like block the country off.
Yeah,
Maybe
we
they were
had,
planning that or something, and then he
Yeah.
accidentally talked about it. Anyway, please. Yeah.
It was, you know, and so we were worried we wouldn't be able to get back in, and we didn't want to be stuck in this tiny, strange town in Crete, which we were having, you know, it was a nice town, but we didn't want to be there for God knows how long.
It was not tourist season too, so there was only like, I mean, there were not very many people under 50 there.
Oh, wow.
And our host also was kind of shitty. I don't mind saying that because he's not gonna see this or hear this. But he like didn't understand veganism, so he kind of like berated us about that we didn't eat meat. Now I can't eat cheese. I'm allergic to cheese. So, you know, and she will not eat meat. And I mean, I'll only eat it kind of at this point in my life in dire situations. But even that, you know, I really don't want to. I'm not trying to do that. But he didn't understand it. And
he was shitty for lots of reasons. Like he didn't say he was a smoker. Yeah, we did Workaway, basically. I don't know if you know about this, but it's a website that not very many Americans know about. And you can,
it's great.
You can look up labor. You can look up construction work, painting work, whatever, nanny work, house sitting, and places in these countries or these families will say, hey, I need somebody to come help me build my barn or something like that.
Right.
And if you say, hey, I can be that person, and you know they vet you out and they figure you're the person they want to come, you go and they're supposed to provide a place for you to stay and food for free. And you, in exchange, return your labor, and they're supposed to give you time to explore the country while you're there and all that stuff. So it's a really good way to travel inexpensively.
like light labor. Sometimes it's taking care of animals, or sometimes working at a hostel, which I've done in the past in Spain. But this guy, he was having financial trouble, and he didn't tell us about this really until we got there, and he couldn't afford to feed us. So we had to like
use our money for food and feed him. We had to feed ourselves and him.
Oh boy.
And he wasn't happy with our vegan food. And I was like, you're not even making your own food.
Right.
Yeah,
And you're not making our food. What?
Yeah, and he was a heavy chain smoker, and I'm a classical singer, so it really, I don't care if people smoke, but I don't want it in my lungs.
Right.
And he would smoke like a chimney inside with the windows closed, and was offended when Alyssa asked him nicely to, can you not smoke inside or open a window or just step onto the porch or something like
Yeah.
that. And he wouldn't do it, so we would be,
He
hot
wanted
box by
hot
cigarette
box.
smoke in our
By
bedroom.
cigarettes. Like, why would you want to do that? And she, it really bothers her. I mean, I can handle it,
imagine.
but knowing something bothers you, enrages me. I'm over here can you not? This is where we're all living and staying. And so, we butted heads, me and that guy.
Yeah, anyways, so we didn't want to stay there for all of COVID, so we hightailed it back as quickly as possible on a plane, and we had a layover in Germany and then came straight over here. And I heard that the day after we left, they closed the borders to Germany, so we just made it out,
Wow.
and we've been here ever since.
Wow.
Yep.
How did the uncertainty of COVID bring you guys closer together, though? Because many couples kind of suffered and realized that I'm not going to be with this person for the rest of my life because COVID. But you guys have had so many different things thrown at you. How did the uncertainty actually validate that this was your person?
Well, we kind of already knew that we were soulmates. I mean,
Aw.
we knew that kind of early in. Because I've never felt this way ever, but maybe this happens for everyone. When you find your soulmate, you just know. And
Aww.
And I mean, now I'm living with her family. So that is forced the kind of intimacy, the familial kind of intimacy where I have to and same with her and my family, so we stayed with my family. We stayed with her family a lot more. So it's like a roommate situation at this point. I have to I have gotten used to all the quirks of her family members, and they're all so sweet and great. And I'm very, very lucky that they allow me to stay there because I'm kind of just the random person that's there.
Yeah, I mean, because we were traveling in Europe and we didn't know how long we were going to be gone, so we didn't have a place. And when we came back during COVID, we're musicians and there was no way for us to get any kind of work, so we've been mostly staying with friends and family since. And I mean, I think it helped to have that months of travel experience, and we were spending a bunch of time together and lots of time not sleeping because we were on buses and things, so there was all sorts of kind of mild conflicts that we figured out a way to overcome, and it just kind of went through into COVID as well, because every couple has a situation where they really need to learn how the other person responds to conflict, what makes them upset versus, how does their brain work, that kind of thing. And I feel like it takes a while for people to figure that out. And because we're together all the time, we figured it out very quickly.
Yeah.
It was kind of a necessity, and a lot about a relationship is choices. You have to decide,
Absolutely.
I want to be with this person. So what do we have and what do we work, how do we make this better? How do we get past this, and we wanted to be together. And so any kind of situation that we came upon, we just worked through it.
Usually when we're tired or stressed, if one of us is tired or stressed, then we're more likely to get in a little argument or something.
Do you this kid asked me one time, he was getting ready to get married, and he's like, do you have any advice? And I was like, nah, not really. I was on a job site, and then I thought about it for a little bit, and I was like, yeah, I do. I was like, you know what? You're going to fight. You're going to fight. You're going to, if you cohabitate, you're going to fight. I mean, Chris and I, we've gotten to the point now, and we got a mud pit and stuff that we do. It's
His
cool.
life, not me.
We're going to put some videos. No, I'm talking about you.
I thought he was talking about you.
No, it's you, big guy. Don't deny
Don't
the
run
mud
away.
pit.
We got into this mud pit.
Don't deny the mud pit.
Naked
okay?
mud wrestling.
Yeah.
You should have seen
Are you
Anneshirley's
judging?
face
No
when you
judgment,
started
none.
saying. You should have seen Anneshirley. You said something, she looks at me like, what?
But anyway, it's you're going to fight. Just expect that. The thing is, what do you do with it? What do you do with anything? You said choice, right? That's the thing, is choice, perspective. I say that crap all the time. It's And so I was like, if you can build this trigger in your head that like in the heat of the moment when you're just like, like I just can't even stand this person. It's like what's that circuit breaker that you can throw and be like, whoa, like bring it down a second, take a breath, back the fuck up. Like, let me think here. And I said, ask yourself if you can even remember where the conversation began. Like, if at that moment you can even remember why you guys even started down this path. I was like, I bet you 9 out of 10 times you can't even do that. I said, so how important is it to you? Like, do you put the cap on the toothpaste? Do you put the toilet seat down? Do you get a divorce? Do you go upstairs and have hot, sweaty pig sex or something? It's like what's the end result of this thing?
The mud.
There it is.
The mud. People think we're kidding. So, but seriously, like I think that's the key to a successful relationship. It's like in asking that question, but being honest when you ask and answer that question. Like, what is the end result of this thing? Like, do we move forward from this point? Is it that important? Yeah. If you can recall it, maybe it is that important. Maybe it's like, no. It's like, this has been eating at me for like a month. Like I had to say this. I could not say this. So that's important. Or is it just a knee-jerk reaction? Because like you said, you're like hangry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, how many fights have ever happened because you just want to eat, well, not for you guys, but chicken wings or something,
Yeah.
It's like, you know what? I never want to see you again. Where's the fucking pizza at?
That's true.
But I really like
Not that I've ever done that.
what you said about choice and making a decision to like go past what you're emotionally feeling in that moment and then remember why I'm here and why it matters. I think that's exactly what you were talking about too with your father, right? Like when you are communicating to him about things that he may not be warm about, right? It's still an active choice to be in that relationship and cultivate it. And I mean, that's your dad, right? So
I mean, I kind of keep
there's
fighting
value
with
there
him because I love him.
Exactly. You love him.
Because you care.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like do really want him to understand.
I care about you and I want you to think like this.
Yeah.
For people that already have their beliefs that are pretty set, though, how likely do you think people are to change? Even if given proper
That's such a
information.
good question.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
honestly, at that age, it
Right.
probably is really difficult. I feel like people do get to, I mean, a certain age, and especially someone like my dad who like will never do psychedelics. I mean, psychedelics are something that I think can prime your brain for change
For sure.
and your,
Yeah.
self.
There's this concept called neuroplasticity.
Yes.
Totally.
Big on
Yes.
the podcast circuit right now, so
Oh, yeah.
I love it.
slow
Hashtag.
down our thoughts on it.
Vocab word.
But yeah, like something like a psychedelic, for instance, or even just a major change or even a minor change in your life can kind of prime your brain for, kind of it's like a pathway or a rut, basically. You've got a mental pathway that is formed over years and years of years and years of repetitious thought patterns, right? So it's like, how do you break that? And you're right, for people that are especially reaching a certain age, maybe your thought pattern is to trust mainstream media or a certain news channel
authority.
or something like that. Yeah, authority is something that is definitely bred into us to a large extent, right? And I'm sure that we can get into that and have some conversations.
We do, yeah.
But yeah. So I guess in terms of the neuroplasticity argument, it's definitely possible, right? But it takes like certain priming, and that's interesting that you bring up like psychedelics for instances of thing. But it is crazy that those pathways can be so powerful that even in the face of overwhelming evidence to the contrary, one can maintain their prior belief system.
Right.
Because
Right.
the ruts are so deep in
Yeah.
there.
Right.
Yeah, and it's a beautiful thing about human psychology, but also crazy and somewhat terrifying.
Yeah.
But also kind of amazing too.
Right.
So,
But and your music calls to people to kind of question those beliefs, or at least take the time to reconsider. The songs that you brought to the Roadhouse today really forced me to kind of question how I've gotten comfortable in certain ruts in my life, and to critically self-examine your relationship to social media, for example, or where you get your information. All of these things matter. So when you're talking about neuroplasticity, I'm sorry, guys.
We get it.
We're here.
Nailed it.
Here we are. Yeah.
We are all challenging, like, at least that's the point, right? To like grow and develop new neuro lines in your brain, so you can
hopefully,
connect.
but not everybody. But yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
That's a good point.
Right. But sorry. Go on.
No, yeah. So listening to music, I think, is a really good catalyst. Haha. I did that on purpose
Hey.
for that. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that is that's the sort of art style that is the most, it can affect your emotions the strongest. Like, it's something that doesn't have to go through your eyes first. And I think, like, there's something how, I don't even know how to verbalize it, but with the
visceral.
way, it's
visceral.
so incredibly visceral. It just goes straight to your brain almost. I mean, your ears are literally right here. It doesn't have to go through here. It's
Imagine
not
that
out here.
even if you are
Ethereal.
deaf, that the vibrations themselves go through you, right?
Yeah.
I mean, Beethoven, as he's losing his hearing, right? The whole story, chops off the legs, puts the piano on the ground, sits there, boom, 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 and writes based on the vibrations alone. So it's like it can touch you as long as you have any sensory ability whatsoever.
I consider that like magic. I mean, that's like
Right.
the closest thing to that this reality has to magic, like playing notes and sounds that affect your emotion. Like, that's why it's important to put messages, I think, in there, like whether it's very obvious or not, or like more metaphorical, but we kind of sometimes hit it right on the head with it, but other times are, I guess, a little more symbolic, but we have a message, we're like trying to make people hear it or understand it, and I think catchy tunes is the way to do it.
It's
true.
You're
It's
listening
true.
to it, you're like, oh, this is good. I'm digging this, and you're like, wait, what are they saying?
Now they're
What are
talking
they
to me.
about?
Revel what now?
Yes. Yes.
It's just information. Yeah. No.
Totally. And I heard like a great quote one time from a lady I used to work for at a music conservatory who said that, there's a difference between art and entertainment. And entertainment is you pay money or you go and you get what you expect. You go to see Led Zeppelin, you go to see, Fleetwood Mac or something like that. You go to see a band and they play excellent, they play the things that you expect to see, and you leave happy. And art is something that changes you as a person. It's something you did not expect to happen, and you are different than that. You are different for having experienced that.
Yes.
And for us, entertainment is one thing, and it has its own place, and I appreciate it as an art of sorts. But I want to make actual real art where people are changed by what they hear for whatever reason. It makes them think. It makes them different slightly inside because of that. So, yeah.
And Shirley and I are giggling at each other right now because we just had a very in-depth conversation about art the other night.
Yeah, we did. We
So
did.
it's really
we
cool
did.
you brought it up like that. But it's basically what you say. It's this reaction between the observer and what they're, I guess, observing, right? And that is what separates art, because you can consume a piece of media and get nothing out of it.
Exactly.
Absolutely nothing,
Exactly.
right?
Exactly.
Yeah, and no, that's interesting. And actually, real quick, I'm very curious about, for the two of you, specifically for music, because this is the way that you view, I guess, getting your message across. Are there artists that have done that for you in the past? Or I guess not even musical artists, but artists that have communicated a message that's like a subtext to you? I don't know who that is.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I mean, the answer is definitely yes. I just can't think of anybody
That's
right
okay,
now.
yeah.
I think it's just a really good way of saying what are your influences. Who are your
Yeah.
influences? Yeah.
So yeah,
It's like, what were the moments that you heard something, you experienced something that, like, from then on, it was like, oh,
Yeah.
You know, like to me, I have those. I hear a song and there's this moment, and I'm like, oh, they unlock something. You know, they unlock something for me.
I get most of that really from live shows. Like even just, it doesn't have to lyrically have content, but like I've been at Widespread
Vibrations.
Panic shows. Yes. And like that, I feel like I've reached a higher plane from witnessing the amazing thing that unfolds on stage. I mean, it's like the energy between everyone, the cooperation. I mean, and visually it's beautiful as well. They have an intense light show. I mean, Widespread Panic is an amazing live band. STS9 is kind of the same way too. Yeah, you like them? Yeah, and like there's something about like the dancing and like you like realize when you're dancing to the music, like we're all just dancing in life, man. We're all just constantly dancing with each other, and like you look around and you're like, you see yourself in everybody's face in the crowd, and how like you're all kind of the cells of one giant organism.
Wow.
You know, like that's like the kind of
That's
thing
the
you
DMT.
experience. But I wasn't on DMT.
Actually, it's not though.
Yeah.
It's really not. You can
music.
have that experience collectively, and I know exactly what you're talking about. And it's this strange thing because you'll have these moments when you swear you know exactly what is going on around you, and you know exactly the message that the artist is trying to get across. And you feel that everybody else in the room also gets that.
Like it's a hive mind thing, and it's on the dance floor. I mean, it's in the crowd. It's just, and you do really feel like you understand what the musician is saying with their noises.
Yeah, it doesn't. You're right. It doesn't even need to be vocal at all. Yeah. Crazy.
It's like understanding intent through the movement of the energy, right? Like the artist is putting something out there that together the collective starts to understand, right? Like you said, hive mind. That's a really good way of putting that.
There's something about controlling a crowd too, and like giving a crowd what it wants, or like there's something to it. It's a magic. I mean, it really is. Like witnessing it and watching it, there's an art to it. I mean, that's why like I guess some bands are great with crowds, or they do that. They like perform there.
There's
magic.
Is there not a science to it too?
There's this scene.
There
in
probably is.
Austin.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a science, man.
No, but like you can. It has already been scienced, right? It's already been done. It's like you know that if you work through, say, like 64 bars of moving through this type of a dynamic pattern, then that amount of time at this BPM, like, can put somebody into more of a trance-like feeling, as then you drop the beat down to then raise them back. Like you mentioned that the other day, like knowing it was coming, knowing, and everyone's doing that. It's like, I'm going to bring you down now. I gave you enough foreplay, right? It's like I gave you enough foreplay. Now we're going to bring things down, and now I'm going to bring you back up. And I think that you can science that.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Disagree. Hard.
Okay.
But on top of that, this shit doesn't happen in a vacuum.
Okay.
It takes that human dynamic and the crowd dynamic. You might be able to put somebody in a room and sensory deprive them and maybe do a similar thing, but the collective reinforcement that occurs, I mean, maybe you could map it out if you're doing brain waves or something like that, you know, but there's an X factor to it, set and setting. And the people that are there that make it an entirely different kind of situation.
Something that really does resist quantification. Like it resists that. It's like it resists categorization as well. It's almost like this unspeakable thing that we can only talk around it. We can't exactly get at it or point what it is or say what it is.
Because even once it's over, you don't quite even remember every aspect of it. Right?
You're so in the moment.
In it, yeah. And it's just, and it's hard to take it with you sometimes.
You're
Sometimes
so
you can take it with
completely
you.
in the moment. I mean, I'm glad you understand.
I want to experience it. Like I'm curious. Like I must experience it.
You do have to experience it for yourself, and it's special.
I hate crowds, so it's hard for me to want to do that.
Widespread panic. We all gotta go.
I would
Let's
do
all
that.
get floor
I
tickets.
absolutely would do that.
You
for
want
sure.
to be in a crowd at Widespread Panic.
Yes, I'll do
Just
that.
want to
Yeah.
confirm that you're going to be in a crowd during a widespread panic.
Yeah.
They're
Okay.
ultimate hippies. Ultimate hippie concert.
Right.
But it's
That's
so
why I feel good
fun.
about it, you
Oh,
know?
it's
Yeah.
so fun.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, it's this idea that, I think we had this conversation about it once, is that music, it almost is a state of being, and people who are creating it and the people who are experiencing it, you reach this, this elevated state, and it almost feels like a stream, like this kind of this stream that you join, that's just always existing. And then when you play this music, or you play the music, or you're listening to it and you get to that place, then you join this eternal stream of a higher consciousness. And if we're all in there together, I really think that people who make music together, or people who enjoy music together, there's no way that they can fight, they can hit each other. There's no way that they can't find some kind of commonality or hatred, and I teach children. I teach children in underprivileged neighborhoods in choir and music classes and things. And some of these schools are actually specifically getting music, even though it's not in the curriculum anymore, because they've found that children who sing together don't fight together. They don't punch each other. They don't do all these violent things. It lowers violence on campus to have a music program. And
Wow.
that just, it makes so much sense to me.
That's awesome.
Would you guys postulate that the music already exists?
I would.
That the flow that you're talking about is already there, right? And
Yeah.
then people are just kind of channeling.
Yeah, we
it
just
and
like
what-
pull from it or
Yeah.
something. I
Yeah.
mean, it must, right?
It's kind of
I've-
like the music of
tell
the
me.
Spheres. Have you ever heard of that?
I'm somewhat familiar, but why don't you give us for our
The
audience?
Cliff Notes version.
Yeah.
Sure.
Back in kind of medieval times, they thought that all of the planets were vibrating at a certain frequency. The music of the spheres, that the universe is constantly making music. And we don't hear it because we are vibrating at the same frequency as the Earth. So there's a lot of music that has been written kind of, from that medieval period, where they pull on specific pitches that they assign to planets and things. And I just love the concept that the universe is constantly making music.
I do
and
too.
We are also participating in it, so we're not as aware of it as we would be, because we're just made of music.
Yes.
We're all vibrations, and that's what music is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Clarence Clemens, who was the sax player for Bruce Springsteen in the E Street Band, he passed away a few years ago. But in one of the documentaries I saw about Springsteen and the band, he was talking about the sax solo in one of the songs, and he was like, man, that didn't come out of me. He's like, it just floats down and just comes through me and out of my horn. It's like he wouldn't take any credit for it. Like, he believed that very thought,
Yeah.
that it all was just up there, and he was able to channel, like, for whatever reason, he could connect into that and channel it.
Rick Rubin said a similar thing about Tom Petty during the Wildflowers sessions. It was that he'd see the guy just channel a song, which does bear the question: if the universe is making music, why is some of it in English or in languages that we know about? But that's something that I still struggle with from time to time. But
Maybe we're just channeling it out that way, because that's the only way we know how to hear it, or how to
okay.
like make
Yeah.
it.
We're translating it into a way that we can understand.
right, so there's these concepts that are universal that we're downloading and then turning into words that we happen to speak in whatever language we. That probably explains why 99 Luftballons is also great in English. The 99 Red Balloons song from the 80s. It's great in German and English. And anyway, yeah.
Yep.
It's the universal language too. I mean, like, I went to Thailand a while ago, and like they were all listening to American music. You know,
Right.
people who didn't
Yeah.
speak English were listening to English music, because I mean, it's music. There's something about it that is universal. Good music is good to people of different cultures.
I want that on a t-shirt.
Good music
right.
is good.
Like it.
Yeah.
I do.
It is true, and I think that there's a universal appeal to the beat aspect of it, right? That's where anyone can get behind the beat. That's where you get somebody in the very beginning. You capture their attention with that beat, and then from there, like what Chris was saying, it's like you deliver something on top of that beat, and that's some form of a melody. And it's like, what is that melody over top of the beat? And is that attractive? And is that a catch me? And then if that does, then someone might give you a little bit more attention and say, okay, well, what is like the you know, of course, I don't think that, what is the hook of this song? You know, but really that is the thing. It's like, what is the chorus? Like, what is the thing that like nails you in this song? Or what's that lick? Or what, you know, the thing that goes again over top of the beat that like hooks you in. And then if you are a lyrical act, then someone might give you the time at that stage to finally go, what the heck are they talking about?
Yeah, like on the second or third listen.
Right.
Do you think it's always in that order?
I think that it's a little hard to... No, I don't. There's some things that it's not this visceral beat that always grabs you, right?
It could
of
be
course,
the melody,
yeah.
it could
But
be
I think it
voice
is.
of the
It's
person,
yeah.
right?
It's it could commonly be in those. Those are the kind of the concoction, the ingredients,
If we're making a
right?
sales funnel here,
Right,
you know,
yeah,
you're
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
start
right,
with the
right,
top
right,
of the
right,
parallel or the top of the trapezoid.
But it is typically the lyrics that come last because that's what you have to process the most.
I would simplify it even more, though, and I would say that what draws people to a piece is really the emotion of it. You know, because the way that you listen to, whenever the second that you first hear the music, all of those aspects you talked about are working in tandem to create a vibe, to create a mood, to create
Absolutely,
an emotion,
yes, right.
which is what, you know, to me music is. Music is just emotion made tangible. You know, that you can hear. You can hear emotion.
Yeah,
And
I
that
love
is
that.
what's universal. It doesn't matter if
Absolutely.
you can understand the, you know, whatever. If you can vibe with whatever story that
absolutely.
song is taking, you know, then you really were like, okay, I can get, you know, what else
Listen
is
to a
happening.
good samba,
Yeah, you nailed
right?
that.
You know, but there's a good dance music, you know. But it's like with a good samba, you may have no idea what is being sung about,
Yeah.
you know. But man, it'll get you, you know.
It's true.
So you got something,
Oh, I was just gonna, well,
Mr. Chris?
I say it like that, huh?
I was just thinking about that mud wrestling.
I know, yeah, I know. I was just gonna say, you guys do have a new song coming out, right?
I was going in the same direction,
Yeah.
my brother.
We
Yeah.
do.
Yeah.
Mixed by this amazing man sitting next to me.
Mud wrestling champion.
All right, and that's going to be it for tonight, folks.
Chris mixed it and he did such a good job. Added his
excellent.
guitar on there. Oh,
That's my calling card. I
saved
snuck
the
it on.
recording.
It's like, you guys have the recording, but you gotta put my guitar playing on it.
We begged for it. Come on now.
So
Tell
what's-
us about
it.
Well, so this is one of the songs that we're going to be releasing on our album when we're done recording all of the things on it, and it's called Bildungsroman, which means, can you translate that?
So it's like a novel of spiritual education. It's like a coming of age novel. It's a German word, and we talked about this a lot in my English classes in college. But I really loved that word. I always loved that. And so many stories you'll realize too are Bildungsromans. I mean, Huckleberry Finn is one of those, a coming of age story where like the character has some great, learns something, changes in some way, which I mean, I think that speaks to so many people because that happens to us in our own lives. I mean, we all have a coming of age story, you know, something always happens to us when we're growing up where like the wool is pulled from our eyes. And the song is about that too. It's called like American Dream in parentheses. And yeah, it's kind of this coming of age, like the speaker sort of starts in a more conservative Southern background.
Yeah, it has great lines in it, and in the beginning, you've got the sheep safe in the south, a fish with a hook in the mouth, right?
Yeah, you like
good
that one?
lines, yeah, really good
It's
lines.
sweet.
Yeah, but the overall concept for that, I mean, you know, it is from the position of somebody, you know, growing up in the South, but it's kind of the idea that where society is right now, the American dream, as we've been told, doesn't really exist anymore. The idea that you can have nothing and you can go to America and just with the sweat on your own brow, you can pull yourself up by your bootstraps, you know, and that doesn't...
Work hard and save your money.
Yeah, exactly. And that doesn't really exist anymore for people, you know, of our generation, especially.
Yep.
You know, we went to college, we put in the hours, we did all of that. And you still on a, you know, the kind of money you can make with the minimum wage and all of that, you can't afford to have all these things that you were told you could have if you just did all the work. And so
all it takes is one massive health problem, and then your life is,
Correct.
done.
Absolutely.
That sounds familiar.
And then
The way
you're
that
indebted
America
for the rest of your life.
Yeah,
You'll
exactly.
you can't buy a house, you can't get a new car, you can't get credit cards, you can't do the thing. You can't prosper because you had the accident of some medical condition. Yeah.
Yep.
Yep. It's
Yeah.
very sad. Very sad.
You could, you
No,
could also work at a corporation and jump through all the hoops that you needed to then, and then get hit by a layoff
Yeah.
or something like that.
Which tons of people did during
Oh,
this COVID. I mean, I have a friend
absolutely.
who did everything right, was an accountant, got laid off when COVID came around. I mean, she also hates her job too. I mean, hey Alan, what's up? She hates
Thank you for
accounting.
watching.
I remember. So this is it's Santa Clara where I went, like, business school and everything like that. Just the big four, they call it EY, PricewaterhouseCoopers, all those guys. They
Yeah.
recruit so hard at undergrad, and then a lot of my friends ended up being accounting majors because it was guaranteed employment right after college, right?
Yeah,
they get you,
totally.
and then they will work you.
Yeah, right.
Oh,
You get-
60 hours a week.
Right.
Yeah, 60
Easy.
hours a week minimum, and you're making like decent. Mine's like 60 grand a year in Silicon Valley, which in Silicon Valley is
Not
dick.
that much.
Nothing.
It's nothing.
Nothing.
Yeah, but then
Nothing.
you're
Don't come here.
your hourly wage ends up being something like
Right.
$15 or $20 an hour just
Right.
by virtue of this overtime that you're working.
Yeah.
And
I was-
burnout, and the cycle just continues. And you got these recruiters that go in and they'll, like, with a straight face, tell these college students that this is the best thing that could happen to them, and you want to go work at EY. God, anyway, yeah, so
No, that's
messed
soul
up.
sucking.
Soul sucking, yeah.
it's just crazy.
I majored in risk management, like in the business school, along with English and statistics, because I literally was going to be an actuary. I mean, like, my mom kind of was always like, you should do math stuff. That's where the money is. And of course, as a kid, I'm like, yeah, I want to please you. And that sounds smart. I'm decent at math. So yeah, I get a statistics degree and a risk management degree, only to come to find out that I hate it. I absolutely hate it. Like, it's soul sucking. I don't like doing that. I don't even really like math. And, like, to do actuarial science, you have to do math all day. So I added English and just threw most of my hats there. I mean, like, especially in life, like, I just want to do writing. I want to, like, make music too. I didn't even start playing the bass until after college. Wish I'd started sooner.
No.
Doesn't show. Oh,
Yeah.
please.
Well, somebody's
Thank
got to
you.
do the math, right? So that's an interesting thing, though, right? So if we're talking about education, and we want people to be able to be, like, actualized and and earn money and be within the system and everything like that, how do we do that so that people can actually, basically, there's more people that want to maybe do something like English or music or art than there are people that would, given the choice between those things, do math or do accounting or whatever.
That has to be something that we, as a society, deem to be an acceptable path.
Talk
know,
about it.
And
Like-
find a way to support.
Yeah.
You know what I
Okay.
mean? Because,
It's
like,
true.
as a,
Yeah.
That's
you know,
true.
my mother is Indian. She's, 100% Indian. Can't get any more traditional Indian than her. And to her, the only things you can do with your life is you can be a doctor, a lawyer, or an engineer, and that's it.
Right.
And to her, that is, making, it's her form of love. It's her form of, like, you can take care of yourself when I'm not here, kind of thing.
Find stability.
Yeah, and I feel like that's pretty true kind of generally, especially in America, where it's like, these are the kind of acceptable jobs you can have. The jobs that will make you lots of money. Nobody talks about the jobs that will make you feel fulfilled, the jobs that make you happy to get up in the morning and go to those jobs.
Right.
If we as a society embraced all different types of people, so we need lawyers, yes, we need doctors, yes, but we also need teachers, we need musicians, we need social workers, we need people who are working in the trenches, and they might not be making quote unquote as much money as we think they should be making to be successful, but all of those pathways are things that we need as a society to be whole.
It's a shame that it's a sacrifice, though. Like, it's a shame that if we want to change, like, we really want to change, we need to change what the children are getting, right?
Yeah.
We need to change what the people who are going to be coming up next, how they think, how they view the world, how they interact. It's like, I find myself in the experience of this Roadhouse where so many of my influences were older than me, right? Much older. 35, 40 years older than me in some cases. And then now a lot of the people I associate with being younger than I am, and seeing, such a different mindset between the two, and how adaptation works, how evolution works, how I see all these things happening in just like a 50-year time span of ages. And so if we want to change things, like change with the children. So now if we want to improve our world, why are teachers paid so poorly? Like, why are we not investing in our education? Why are we not investing in our teachers? Because this is another thing I struggle with is education right now is how much information can I cram in you and then test you on before I kick you out of my class and into the next one, right? Like, that's what education is. Education is not at all about asking questions.
Usually not, no.
How do you solve problems if you're not asking questions? Right? Like, how do you become self-sufficient if you're not able to navigate your way through something, but can only understand what has been fed into you?
Right. And I think, well, with public education too, it's not necessarily geared well towards people that do ask questions, because I don't think they necessarily want it. Like, some teachers as individuals do encourage their students to do that. But I mean,
free thinkers are hard to control.
Yeah, exactly. It's
true, and they're hard to quantify. Speaking as someone who's worked a little bit in the educational, or the elementary school system, these children, not everybody is good at everything. We're not all cookie cutter people. It's that whole I don't know what it is, a fable or something that's talking about you're trying to judge an elephant by whether it can climb a tree or not. It's like it's silly to think, and when you have these other programs in the schools, when you have the music and the art and the drama and the sports and all these other things, instead of just the English and the math and the history, which is kind of what it's all been boiled down to, how much of this core subjects can you learn and regurgitate? The students that aren't good at that, who would be good at the other things, they now feel less than. They now feel upset. They now feel, have low self-esteem and all these things that will later mean, problems in their life and whoever else that they interact with. And if they were just... if were able to, have teachers who were paid more or less overworked and actually had the time and the energy to address these different children and say, let's try teaching this way. Let's try teaching in a way that will appeal to them. Let's learn this lesson in a song, something like that.
If they had time to step back and say, okay, I have two students who really seem to learn better like this, or something, and be able to adjust that, somewhat, because like you said, man, everybody doesn't have the same makeup. Everybody doesn't get the same nutrition. Everybody doesn't get the sense of security and safety when they leave the school and go home. So it's like, what can you do during the day to affect the children in a manner that actually has some efficacy, right? That it's not just, this is the information we deem that our youth need to understand in this country, and they must understand at least this much of it in order for us to say that they're not ignorant.
Yeah, I think they found that standardized tests are not like so great for kids.
They're not.
They don't work very well.
And how much of that do they even retain?
Yeah,
exactly.
As adults, how many of you can remember every single thing you learned? When you were.
I'm trying my best to shed things,
Teachers hate standardized testing too. That's a big part of it.
It doesn't
right?
allow them to teach.
Well, yes, exactly. You're spending an entire third of the year effectively teaching to put people up to this test that is based on these very, very somewhat arbitrary standards by people that don't even live in the same state or whatever. So I guess the question though is like, how much standardization is necessary in order for people to have a baseline education that will serve them in society. And that comes from a restructuring of the entire curriculum, right? And like in a lot of places and in a lot of areas in the United States where we want to improve or we're running into issues, this stuff stems from, this is just the way we've been doing it for the last 50, 100, 150 years. And then this stuff gets entrenched. You know, it's this classic like red tape example. You've got a bureaucracy that effectively exists within the education system, where the people that are administrators have all the power and the financial incentive to stay in power, and the teachers have very, very little bargaining power. Whereas if you were setting up a more ideal system, the people that actually have a vested interest in the success of the students, i.e. teachers, would be the ones that are actually setting the curriculum and determining that stuff. You don't become a school teacher because you're trying to get rich. A school administrator, on the other hand, could probably make a pretty decent chunk of change. And these are, again, like people that you see running into politics. They're the ones that are rising to the top, not necessarily because of competence or because of kindness or because of just generally being a human being, but because of maybe of your ambition.
Cronyism.
Yeah, I mean, right?
Yep.
That's the thing. And you see these parallels everywhere. Every time somebody complains about corporate structure, the corporate ladder, every time somebody complains about school administrations, every time somebody complains about politics, the Silicon Valley, whatever. It's entrenchment by people that have used means that are not necessarily the best for their industry or job or whatever, but have used other sort of means to get to the top and are going to try and maintain that however they can.
Well said.
That problem is
Well said.
everywhere
Yeah.
too, not just education. I mean, we put another problem with U.S. specifically. We put so much money into war. I mean, so much money just goes into defense contracts and war machines. And we need to take some of that and put it into education. I mean, we need to put it into building up people, not literally destroying people. And then that would help our country so much. I mean, for me, I think giving people a good education is a good answer for everything. Because at least then if you have a decent education, you can decide what you want. You don't have to do it because of necessity. Like, I don't have to take this terrible job I don't want because of necessity. I have the education, I can do what I want. And it needs to include creative things.
But
Agreed, full-heartedly.
as automation comes in, like, what's the value? I mean, if you want to talk about what automation can take over the fastest, it is actually some of the most technical jobs that we have out there, like even including engineering and science, right? Those are things that you can break down and quantify and see it, make calculations around. And so what is more difficult for something like automation through robotics, for instance, to take care of are things that humans do with their hands. And so I wonder if we want to enable people to have jobs that have some longevity to it, those are the problems that automation is going to have the longest, it'll be the longest to implement, will be taking over hand-skilled things. So I wonder if that's not where we should be putting some of our, but that comes along with like problem solving, like asking questions. To be good with working with your hands at a high level needs to have the ability to think logically and to break things down and to be creative about a variety of solutions.
Yeah, problem solving.
Yeah.
Right.
That's interesting.
I mean, if you want to take that to its logical conclusion, what you end up seeing is a society where you're either looking at programmers, people that are good at manipulating the computers that are doing the work, or you're looking at people that do things well enough for entertainment that people want to pay them.
Yeah.
Which again, if you take it to its logical conclusion, is effectively content creation. And that's an ugly, despicable word in a lot of ways, because it's so broad and, again, can go against the idea of what we've just described already as art, right? Make art, not content. But so those, I mean, if you really take that argument to its conclusion, that's what it is. Those are your two options. So.
Question: do you think that automation, though, might be a necessary evil for a society that's just technology is just outpacing a lot? Do you think automation can somehow liberate the creative class or allow people to have access to, like, if I don't have to go become an accountant because there's a computer doing my job, maybe I can be passionate and follow the thing that I really want. And maybe that's a good thing, maybe, for automation, if it can be liberating for human beings in a way.
Do you guys want a shot at that?
Well, I actually was going to say the exact same thing. What if it,
Oh, wow.
like, what if
Yeah.
this automation that's taking over all of these jobs that we have to do, but we don't necessarily, like, I could be wrong. I'm sure there's some people out there who feel passionate about accounting, but I don't know how many of them really feel in their soul like they're moved by it, you know? Is humankind is the version of us that is the most evolved, the version that has all of the things, all of the math, all of the sciencey things that, you know, that can be automated. You know, is that our most evolved form? I don't know if I'm articulating this correctly or not, but it frees us up to be creative, because computers can't do that.
They can't feel.
They can't feel.
They don't care.
No.
Right.
You know.
Not yet. Hopefully they don't.
Don't speak it into the universe.
Yeah, right.
But that's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, I think the act of creation, so being creative and making something, I mean, that's the closest humans can get to being godlike. And like that is what we're trying to do, right? We're trying to like raise our consciousness level. Yeah, exactly. And like reaching towards that, like acts of creation. And like we always think of, and this kind of goes back to all civilizations, that, you know, destruction is usually bad and creation is usually good. You know, they don't, when they talk about the Bible, they don't really talk too much about God destroying things. Although, I mean, that does happen too. Gods do that too. But that's normally looked upon as like the devil's work. Yeah. You know? So it's a lower thing, like lower consciousness to destroy and higher to create. So like maybe that will open up more people to create things. And programming, sure, that can be creative too. I think if you can like make a cool program, even if you can make a great business, like there's an act of creation in that. Like there is creativity involved.
Absolutely.
All kinds of art.
For sure. Yeah. So what do you say about the it would be really neat if financial and social gains from automation trickled down.
Yeah.
Universal income.
It'd be real flippin' neat if that were a thing, but like what we're seeing.
Let's have Andrew Yang on.
Exactly. Yeah.
I have two connections to Andrew Yang.
Dude.
Yeah. 6 degrees of separation.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah. That would be huge if you got him on here. But yeah, I mean, he has a great reason why we need to implement universal basic income. I mean, that makes sense to me.
Yeah.
That's kind of, you know, like the Renaissance was able to happen because of good growth in crops. Like that was one of the things, right? It's like when there is plentiful and when there is plenty, and you no longer are focused on survival, then you can be creative.
Yeah, you can flourish.
Exactly.
Right. Same things, like when you don't have to go and put in 40 hours or 50 hours a week or something, and then come home and then try to find the time, you know, in the evening, and, you know, to do the thing that you love to do and you wish you were doing, but you're exhausted because you hate your life and somebody pissed you off at work that day, and, you know, the whole thing. So that would be a lovely sentiment, but I fear that for the past several years that it has been, how do we again kind of keep from bringing too many free thinkers into our civilization in the name of control? I've got to think about the South.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, I don't know how open I want to be about it on the podcast right now. I got to weigh that out. I got to weigh that out a bit. But I got a whole theory about how the South has not been able to quite get rid of how some of the rest of the country views the South.
Yeah. I mean, it's repressed over there too. I mean, I can tell you that I was not honest with myself about my attraction to women until I left Georgia. Not at all. Like, could not. No. I mean, I still liked guys as well, so like it wasn't a huge problem, but I can only imagine how terrible it is for people who are further on the spectrum, you know, and then you just, I guess, be okay with being alone, especially growing up in like the 2000s, which with the way that gays were looked at in the South especially, but even just in America, like it was not really seen as okay. I remember my mom telling me like that was weird, that was not okay, that was considered a sin. And I remember even asking her, but what if, you know, that's in your brain, and didn't God make your brain? And she's like, no, it's a choice. they can choose not to do that, even if they are attracted to the same gender.
Yeah. It is in the South. There's often, I mentioned not being taught to ask questions, but there are questions that there's this one question that comes up all the time. Why'd you want to do that for? You know, it's like, it's not really, I want to understand you. Like, let me ask you a question, and I'm being very general in saying this, and that's unfair of me to do because not everyone in the South is the same by all means.
For
of
sure.
course not.
Right.
But there does seem to be, I certainly can say that I experienced a whole lot of, I mean, even being asked when I was moving to California, and someone who was close in a way, one of the elders, you know, of the kind of the community that I was, you know, involved in. I wouldn't say he necessarily like coached me or anything, but he was certainly part of the group. And he's like, you moving to California? And I said, yep. And he said, why you want to do that for? And I said, well, I was like, I've started this website thing, and I believe in it, and I'm gonna go do this thing. He's like, don't you ain't nothing but hippies and queers in California? He goes, which one are you? And I looked down and I go, what you doing later? But yeah, and that's just that kind of a thing. It certainly exists everywhere. I mean, exists everywhere. But it just, again, it's how, and here I am. It's how the South is perceived. Like, it hasn't been able to shake that, and that's part. I'll make sure I feel comfortable bringing it out on the podcast. We'll
That's
talk
fair.
about it.
You can tell me after this.
All right. Well, speaking about after this, what do you guys think? This has been a wonderful conversation. I think it's kind of a good time to.
Yeah.
I think we could talk for another 2
I was
hours.
like, I thought we were just getting started.
Yeah.
But,
So maybe we'll do. Maybe we'll do it again.
Yeah.
Please come back.
Have us back.
Absolutely. All right. So before we sign off, where can you be seen? And of course, I'll put it up on the video that we do and everything. But where can the music be found?
We're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, we're on YouTube. We have a website, wearekatalyst.com.
Spotify too.
Spotify, also
We're
Spotify.
running a pre-save campaign right now on our newest single that was mixed by Chris.
Lovely.
So please pre-save it.
Spell it.
that was,
Oh, Bill Dungsramon or
No,
Katalysst?
Katalysst.
Okay, yeah.
Not Bill Dungsramon.
I mean, I can do it.
I could do it.
I did well in the spelling bee, okay? I did well. I didn't win, but I did well. Okay, Katalysst. It's Katalysst.
the double S.
Double S.
Katalysst.
All right, I'll put your handle up and everything. Thank you guys so much for coming. It's
Thank
always lovely
you.
to
Thanks
see
for
you.
having us.
I know.
So much fun.
Great conversation.
Hell
right.
yeah.
And thank you, Chris. Mud Wrestling. All right. Good night.
Good shout back.
Cheers.
Father said he tilled the land, walked me to school while he held my hand, showed up for church every single Sunday, waiting for the judgment day. We were sheep safe in the South, but I was a fish with a hook in the mouth. College was cool, I learned how to write and read faces like books almost every night. Tried to think like Haraway and drink like Hemingway, sipping wine from grapes of the past, unaware these nights would last. We were friends with Huckleberry see clear